Okay, guys, this was supposed to just be a short video about how to format your essay, and it has turned into a nightmare. I have tried to upload this thing 70 times. I'm not sure why it's not working. So I've decided to just record a new video and try to upload this new video, and maybe that will magically work. So formatting is what we're talking about today, and format just has to do with how the words look on the page. So we're talking about things like the margins, which is all of this white space at the side, the top, and the other side, how big they should be, how small they should be, the type of lettering used, all of that stuff, the spacing, how it looks on the page. So it has nothing to do with the actual writing. But it is important that we all do it the same way so that there's a standard and everybody's essay is graded equally. So there's 4 things that I want to talk about when it comes to format. This is just really quick and really easy. The first thing is the document itself. So what kind of font and what kind of spacing we use. Pretty basic. I'm not going to spend very much time on that. The 3 things that I really want to cover are how the cover page should look, because this may be the first time that you're writing an essay with a cover page. How the formatting of the actual body, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion should look. And then finally, we're going to talk about the references page, and they all kind of have their own idiosyncrasies. So I have already shared with you a research guide from the A-State Library, and it, down at the bottom, covers all of those things. It covers the title page, which was the first one that I wanted to cover. It covers how the body of the essay should look as far as spacing and font, and then it covers the reference page. The reference page has this weird little thing where the first line of each source is right at the margin, and then the other lines are indented. So I can tell that my first source is here and my second source is here. If I just kept it all at the margin, they would run together. This weird thing is called a hanging indent, and they have special instructions just for that over here. But instead of just using this, I'm actually going to use a document that a student turned in last semester. So I think using a real document is going to be a little bit more helpful, so I can show you where all the things you need are. If you want to open your document and just follow along, maybe change things as I'm talking, or watch and pause, and then you can go to yours, that would be a great idea. So let's just go over like the first 2 things, and then maybe I'll give you guys a break to practice those, and then I'll make another video for the second 2. So the first thing, oh, I don't know if it's sharing the ones that I want to share. The first thing that we need to talk about is just the font and the spacing. This is really, really basic, and then we're going to talk about the cover page at the end. So let's go here. When I'm finished with my whole essay, we've got a cover page, we've got the body, and we've got the references. When I'm finished with the whole thing, what I like to do is just select everything, select all of it, make sure that it's all Times New Roman, make sure that it's all 12 point, and then make sure that it's all double spaced. And I can do the spacing using this little button that has an arrow pointing up and an arrow pointing down. I can just change it to double space, and I should be okay. Sometimes when I change things to double space, it puts extra spaces between the paragraphs. In this case, it did not, so that's great. But it's important to know that this is my first paragraph, this is my second paragraph, and the space between like this line and that line needs to be the same as the space between this paragraph and that paragraph. There should be no extra spaces in between here. Let me show you what I'm talking about just really quickly. Like if I did have a space between the paragraphs, you can see that the space between these 2 is different than the space between these 2. There's an extra space. So I just always want to make sure that that's not there. And mine has the option to remove it. If you don't want to use this little button, you can always pull out the dialog box here off of the ribbon and just go to double spacing and make sure that the space before the paragraphs and after the paragraphs is set at 0. It's the same thing. Okay, so format, font and spacing is all done. Yes. Okay, so let's go back to our document. And now we're just going to quickly talk about the cover page. The cover page has a special header, and then we've got the 5 lines of information right on there. So let me show you what this looks like in real life. Okay, this is our header up here, and it needs to have the title and the page number. I'm going to show you how to do this from scratch. So when I always start with inserting the page number first, because when I insert the page number, I'm just in the tab that says header and footer. When I insert the page number, I want it at the top of the page and aligned to the right. It deletes everything else. So I don't want to type my title and then do my page number because it will just delete it. Anyway, after that, I actually have to type the words running head, then a colon, before my title. My title needs to be in all caps, and I know her title was the word PETA. I'm going to space this so that it's over at the left margin, and this is how our heading should look. In order to move this way, I'm using the tab button. On the very left side of my keyboard, there's a button that I can push right in the middle that makes everything capitals. In between that button and the numbers, so above the capital button, but below the numbers button, there's a tab button is what it's called. And it will move me like 5 or 10 spaces at a time. So if I was back here, it's just moving me like a chunk of space at a time. So I use that one to make sure that I'm aligned to the side. You can do it however you want. The last thing we need to talk about for the header though, is that the entire document needs to be Times New Roman. And a lot of people forget to change the header. But if I go back, oops, I don't need that extra space there. If I go back to the way that it was, you can see that these letters don't look the same as these letters. I can tell very easily that it's in a different font. So I'm gonna go forward back to what I did. I need to make sure that the font is the same. Okay, so now we need to talk about this 5-line heading. The first piece of information you're going to include is the title, oops, still in capitals, title. And I'm just going to leave it like that so you know that's what the title, that's what goes there. The next thing is the student name, the university, and then the professor. APA actually uses a 5th line. I'm just making it optional for you, but if you want to, you can put the name of the course as well. And of course, all of this needs to be centered, and it should be about 4 lines down. So I'm at the very top of my document. I can tell because this gray part is the margin, and I'm right at the top of the white part where I can actually start typing. And if I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm here. So it needs to be 4 lines down so that when I'm looking at the entire page, it's not too close to the top. It shouldn't be exactly at the top, but it's not exactly in the center either. And for some reason, it's just 4 lines. I'm gonna give you a pause right now so that you can go through and make sure that your spacing and your font are correct and that your cover page is all ready to go. And then I'll get into the body and the references. Okay, so why don't you guys go practice that? See you in a minute.